and why it's important for you as well as for your tenants. And just before we get started, just to say AOA is one of the largest individually organized groups of apartment owners in the state. And I believe we became that large because our goal is to help you make more money. We want to give you ideas. We want to help you save more money. And we want to make things easier for you as an apartment owner. And we know a lot of you are working regular jobs as well as providing housing for others. And so we're here to help you. And there's a whole lot of things that we do. One of those is the AOA forms, of course. And just an update, we do have a brand new lease agreement. So please throw away or delete all the old AOA lease agreements if you have it. And you can download the new one as a member if you go to the AOAusa.com website. And anyway, we have why landlords are choosing 1031 exchange DSTs. That will be a live stream that we have next week. And then as we look forward into January, we'll have a legislative update brought to you by anyway, I'm not remembering his name, but Mike Brennan, there we go. And also we're going to have another live stream that's about how to handle gangs, how to deal with drug problems that maybe it's a tenant or maybe it's just around your property. And so that's a topic that we'll address in January. So if you're listening, definitely go to the AOAusa.com website and you can register for those different events. Those events aren't up yet, but you also can subscribe to the YouTube channel here. And when you subscribe, if you click over the notification bell, every time that we go live, you'll get that update. And anyway, so that's just a little housekeeping. Also, we will have Q&A at the end. And if you're watching from the AOA website, at the bottom there's a right side, there's a little blue help button. If you click on that, you can type your questions in there, and those questions will be relayed to me, and then we'll be able to ask our speaker those questions. And also, closed caption is available on Facebook. So you could go to the AOA site on Facebook, and you can tune in there to get the closed captions. And right, so here we go. So our speaker today, he is the CEO and founder of GS Insurance Solutions, and he is a Notre Dame grad, and he also is, like you, is a housing provider, and their company, and he's been awarded the top apartment specialist in the insurance company in the whole United States. Also, let's see, the best claims experience and at the best price, has won multiple awards. This is a company, he's the CEO of this company that also AOA has chosen to have a relationship with for the group for the group insurance, group apartment insurance, and they do a whole lot more. But anyway, he's an expert in his field, and specifically apartment insurance. And so it's a pleasure for me to introduce to you today Anthony Miller.
Well, good morning. Good morning. My name is Anthony Miller. Well, good morning. Thank you for letting me know, Jeff. I appreciate that. It does happen, especially in this new era we live in and over Zoom. So, but yeah, excited to be here. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be able to speak on renters insurance. It's a very exciting topic indeed. No, in all seriousness, we've gotten a lot of requests and a lot of inquiries about renters insurance. so we felt like this would be a great opportunity to speak on it and do a webinar today. And so it's sort of a coverage that doesn't get a lot of attention, doesn't get a lot of talked about, at least from the apartment owner's perspective. And so we're excited to be able to talk about it. We're excited about our relationship with the AOA and continuing to support you as members. So let's get into it. Who are we? We're one of the largest writers for apartment owners across the country. We were just named, I'm not sure if you heard, but 2021 Best Renters Insurance Company by expertise.com. We were just named that. Somehow they did a number of a thorough process and chose us because of the feedback that they've gotten from a number of apartment owners, a number of renters. But it's something that we do specialize in, something we've grown quite a bit. We have some really unique programs catered and customized specifically around making sure that we can insure apartment owners, landlords, property managers to the very best available options that are out there at the very best pricing. And so we can do some really unique things from coverage analysis, claims, really structuring policies in a number of different ways. And so it is something that we do specialize in. It's something that we love to do on all lines. So from general liability, property, number of layered programs that we have. We insure one unit up to tens of thousands of units across the country. And so it is something that we love and can do some really unique things. And so we're really excited about being able to provide just more helpful information specifically around renters insurance. And so just wanted to highlight our team. Some of you our clients, we feel like this is something we really try to pride ourselves in is hand selecting some of the best insurance experts in the space. Some of these faces may look familiar to some of you, but we really do pride ourselves in making sure that continue to hand select the folks that we feel as though are going to be able to provide not only the best services, not to be the most responsive, but the best experts in the space. Continuing as the industries have changed, as of late, there's been so many different litigation and policy changes that it's super important that our clients, our apartment owners, our landlords have that they know that we are at the forefront of these changes so that we can provide and adapt to the different solutions that are out there. So kind of a high level overview, what we're going to talk about today. Number one, exposures and risks that you, the apartment owner, face with tenants not having insurance, renters insurance coverage in place. There is an exposure there. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about sort of the reasons why we're seeing tenants aren't purchasing renters insurance. I think it's an important topic to talk about. And then lastly, simple, but the financial benefits, the risks, and the solutions that are available to make sure that each of you as apartment owners, as landlords, can avoid a financial loss or a financial lawsuit. What is renters insurance? I think most of us know what renters insurance is, what it covers, but essentially, some really helpful fast facts. 50% of Americans today have renters insurance, renters. That's actually up from, I think, 50% last year. So that's a great trend. This is one of the highest percentages. So we're headed, but there's still a significant population of renters that don't have renters insurance. The average cost of renters insurance is about $15 per month. I think I just talked to my personal line staff, and I think they were mentioning we're seeing quite a bit under that. But this is sort of the national or the state average is about $15 per month. So just to give you an idea, $187 a year for renters insurance. There has been some statistical analysis around those renters who do have renter's insurance, it significantly lowers the chance that a landlord will get sued. I think it's somewhere around 89%. So if something does happen, if there's a fire, if there's theft, it's less likely that a landlord will actually get sued, which then in turn lowers your risk, lowers your financial burden, and essentially your premiums on your policies as well. So what else does it cover? Ultimately, there's sort of three. There's more to it than this, but there's three sort of buckets that I put it in: personal property, liability, and additional living expenses, like being replaced from a home if there's a fire, additional costs, hotel, anything like that. But property insurance, personal property coverage is one of the core coverages for renter's insurance. It covers the cost to repair or replace your belongings. TVs, furnitures, electronics. You can have a rider on there that if there's any specific valuables that someone might have, you can include that. It also includes liability, which is a huge exposure, right? If someone damages someone else's property, or if there's any bodily injury that happens on the premises that's a guest of some sort, that liability coverage will be there. What does it not cover? What typically isn't covered? Well, first and foremost, earthquake is not covered, and flood is not covered. One of the things that it also doesn't cover, and this is where the apartment or the landowner or the landlord, it's important for the landlord, is that damage to the actual structure is generally not covered if under that renter's insurance policy. So again, just high level, what is renter's insurance? What does it cover for those who want a refresher? So exposures and risks apartment owners face when tenants not having coverage in place. So the biggest exposure obviously is lawsuits, right? Anytime you have a renter who doesn't have a renter's insurance policy, your chances of being included in a lawsuit increases exponentially. This is for bodily injury, property damage, if there's a fire, or if there's a dog bite. A lot of times we want to make sure that when thinking about having a renter's insurance policy, that those actual policies cover their specific breed of dog. A lot of times what will happen is on those policies, they exclude specific breeds or exclude all breeds together. And as we know, I looked up this sort of interesting statistic: 68% of households own a pet. So, and we've seen a lot of these policies differ from policy to policy. So it's extremely important to make sure that that's covered, because dog bites do happen. Relocation expenses, that's another one that is a huge expense and a cost that really a lot of our apartment owners, regardless of whether or not they have the coverage or not, feel that burden to try and void. And so these renters insurance policies will pick up those costs and eliminate this exposure from the apartment owner. And then, the exposure obviously is the increase in insurance premiums, right? If you have a renter's insurance policy for your tenants, generally there's ways to structure it where it will have a direct effect on your actual apartment insurance, collectively property liability, and there's ways we can do it to structure essentially getting your premiums lowered. A lot of the claims that we see, most common claims, obviously fire, smoke damage. We've seen water overflow, sewage backup, and one of the most common is obviously theft. Again, high level information, really just wanting to make sure that landlords and apartment owners understand the risks around and the importance of renters insurance. A lot of our apartment owners, we have some that believe in this firmly. They have it embedded into their rental agreements. Some that require it, some that have a system or some sort of policy in place where they can easily access a renter's insurance policy, and some that don't have it enforced at all. I mean, we have apartment owners that have thousands of units across the country that don't do this. And so this isn't a one size fits all, but I think it's really important for every apartment owner to understand the risks and the exposures there and what's available, because I think there's a ton of these types of products that a lot of apartment owners just don't know about. But what are the 4 reasons? I came up with 4 kind of core reasons why tenants aren't purchasing renters insurance. The number one reason is they don't know about it. Most of the time, the renters that you guys generally have possibly have health insurance, more than likely have car insurance, but they don't think insurance relating to their home essentially counts for homeowners as sort of an option. A lot of times, sometimes we see these folks thinking they expect the apartment owner to cover some of their items, which is where we see that disconnect and where exposures start to increase. And given that California is so litigious, there's a number of attorneys that will, gladly accept when there are risks and exposures that aren't being covered. So another reason is expense, right? Some renters aren't purchasing insurance because of the costs associated, and they don't realize, $10, $12 a month, $120 a year those are the actual costs. And so, some of them would rather that risk the living in a property without having to pay for that additional expense. Another reason is it's just not top of mind. Because they'd rather focus on other things. There's other important items that they just focus on, or they just don't see the value. Tenants might think renters insurance is a waste of money. It's a waste of time. We've definitely seen that until they have a claim, right? But a lot of times, and this is probably one of the most important, is if they have an auto policy or if they have some other insurance policy in place, they can actually bundle or they can include their renters insurance in there for very nominal cost. And in some cases, it's essentially the same cost as it would be on a traditional auto policy. And so there's things like this to make sure, as you as the apartment owner, you as the landlord, to make sure that we are educating and we are bringing this to your tenants' attention so that they have a choice. Financial benefits and risk solutions available to apartment owners to avoid financial loss or financial lawsuits, right? So as I mentioned before, ultimately, renters insurance, if you do have tenants that have renters insurance, there's ways for us to structure it where it lowers your insurance. And some carriers will ask, and we can get additional credits to your sort of apartment package policy, those premiums lowered. There's policies out there that most apartment owners don't realize, what's called as a sort of a renter's legal liability program. And this is, it's an embedded program. It covers all of your units, and it offers $100,000 of coverage as a master policy for each individual unit, right? And it allows for up to $10,000 for tenant property. So there's types policies like this that if you purchase on a master basis, you pay for each individual unit. You can embed it into their actual rents, your annual rents, and you have this additional buffer of coverage of essentially $100,000 that covers sort of those core perils or those core risks that you see: fire, theft, flood, these types of things. And what you can do with this, if you're interested in this type of policy, is essentially increase your deductibles, right? Your deductibles on your property policy. And by doing so, obviously, in turn, and I'm talking much, much higher than you normally would, right? Looking at this really more from a risk management standpoint. And so in turn, your premiums substantially decrease, right? Claims decrease because you're using this type of policy. This is sort of a unique offering, and in general, it's used for, I would say, mid to larger apartment owners. But these types of things are available. In general, lowering insurance premiums happens when you have renters insurance policies in place. There's also, as you guys all know, there's individual renters insurance policies where you can, you send a link. We have a link where you can literally get a quote online, pretty seamless, takes less than 5 minutes, enter in some basic information, and the renter can get a quote and have a bindable option right there. Individual, it's on the onerous of the actual individual tenant. You don't see as the landlord whether or not, if you do request that they provide you a certificate of insurance, which I recommend for every single apartment owner we have, but some don't, some do. And this is one way to essentially put that ownership on the actual tenant to purchase that renter's insurance policy. There's also another sort of flavor of master renter insurance programs out there. There's a number of them. Generally, I like to think of these for 10 units or more. But essentially, it's a platform where it's sort of like a master policy, but it's you have a link and you send each of your tenants to this master program. They purchase the renter's insurance there, and you can see if their policy is active or not. So when it's embedded into your rental agreement, they agree that they will purchase this. This is sort of something that you can use as voiding that rental agreement to make sure that they do have this policy in place. And that allows transparency, right? So you have more control over one of these master renter's insurance policies versus an individual policy. Hey, go to a Mercury, go to a Safeco, go to this agent and find your own policy and provide me with certificate of insurance. Because a lot of times those certificates sometimes aren't valid. If they get a certificate, day one they have coverage, day two they don't pay their policy, and you may not necessarily be notified of that. In some cases you will, but it's in a lot of cases it's too late. And then there's sort of this rent protect program, a little different than your true renter's insurance, but it does, from the standpoint of the landlord, there are policies out there that do provide coverage for you if for whatever reason a renter doesn't pay their rent for specific covered perils. And I have talked about that in the past, but that is something that I wanted to bring up. And these are sort of high level, high level information on renter's insurance. I think what would be really, because every apartment owner is unique and has different needs and has different interests. And so this is just some information to give as many of you as helpful information. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love for you to give us a call. And we can discuss sort of your unique exposures, your unique situation, and be able to help you. I would like to share sort of the link that we do have on our website. I don't know if you can see my screen here. Jeff, can they see my screen? Can they see my website here, our website?
Okay, there we go. I can't see it either right now. So I can't see it personally.
Can't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see if I can just share this real quick. I just wanted to share this link here. Can you see this now?
Yeah, I can see that.
So on our website, on www.gsisol.com, you click on renter's insurance under the personal insurance. And here is where you can literally get a renter's insurance quote. And it takes literally less than 5 minutes. So if you as a landlord want to have one of your renters go on, get a quote from somewhere where it's, that it's legitimate, that they're going to provide great coverage. You click on the renter's insurance option. There's actually 4 different options. There's auto insurance and a few others, but you click on here and you go through this, and essentially, takes about 5 minutes, and you have a bindable quote. That's how you, again, just some helpful information for someone who does want to purchase renter's insurance. So in closing, again, thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity to share. Again, a lot of information, really high level. We're here to support you as the landlord, as apartment owners. And so whatever we can do, like I said, there's not one size fits all. We offer a number of different coverages, a number of different risk management solutions. you can reach us at the number here, 650-282-3104, extension 1. That's our AOA insurance team. So you should be able to get someone live, or if you want to email us, aoa@gsisol.com. And that's our website. Again, more really important topics to come, but this was one we felt like, just given all the feedback and the questions that we had on renters insurance, we felt like we wanted to do this for you guys. So again, thanks so much for letting me share.
Great, Anthony. And wow, thanks for stopping the screening share thing there. So that helps a lot too. Wow, man, congratulations on getting that award from expertise.com, best renters insurance program. Man, that's great.
Yeah, we were just notified last week. We win these awards from time to time on different things. We've won a number of awards on being an apartment specialist in the space, as you know. But yeah, that was a really nice surprise and a nice privilege, and yeah, it's something we're continuing to try to grow in and be able to offer our landlords. So
great. So if you joined us late, this is Anthony Miller with GSI, and they run the group apartment insurance with AOA and one of the offerings. They have lots of different things that they can help with, but the renters insurance here, as you guys have all heard now. And if you have questions, please go ahead and put those in the chat, and those will get funneled to me. And also just want to mention that right now, the AOA membership cost is $79 a year. That's going to go up next year to $97. And so if you're a current member, you can tack on 1, 2, or 3 years to your membership at the current price. And if you haven't joined yet, this might be a good month to do it. So just want to mention that. We're trying to tell everybody about that. And also just remember that the AOA lease agreement was updated just recently. So if you have the old ones, you may want to update those as well. Throw out the old ones and put the new ones. And we do have a sponsor besides GSI and AOA bringing this to you. Livable is also the sponsor of this. And so we want to thank them for making this possible. And we're going to run their commercial right now.
Hello there, AOA members. This is Daniel Sharabi, CEO of Livable. We've been partnered with AOA now for some years to bring our ratio utility billing services to membership. And what really sets us apart, aside from quality service and taking great care of your residents and billing them back fairly and accurately for their fair share of utilities, is that we have no minimums. So that means if you've got a duplex or a single family home with an ADU, we're happy to help facilitate the utility bill back on your behalf. So we would love for you to get in touch and join all of these happy customers in using our service and celebrating conservation, but also increasing your net operating income. Livable.com/AOA is where you can find more information and ways to get in touch with us. Look forward to getting some time scheduled and to telling you more about the program and how you can do your part to promote conservation. All the best and enjoy the live stream.
All right, well, let's get to the questions. And here we have Shoab. Hey, Shoab, thank you for joining us today. And his first question is renters insurance required by landlord's insurance provider and or any law? And you are on mute, by the way.
Okay. So the question, I'm sorry, Jeff, the question was, is it required by law?
Yes.
No, it's not. In terms of, it's not required by law for the apartment owner to require the tenant, and it's not required by law for the tenant to purchase renters insurance. No, if they want to insure their contents and their liability, It is not. Now, in the state of California, there's some rules around that. And I would speak with your attorney about whether or not you can require them, but that is something that you can embed into your contractual agreement in the state of California, if you so choose to do so, to require your tenant to do so.
Right, and I do know for a fact that it is in the AOA lease agreement. If you are using that, we have it in there because we know that this will reduce your risk massively if you're requiring it, and even better if you're using it, right? That's incredible. 89% less likely to be sued. That was a shocking, an eye-popping number that you shared with us.
By tenants for
Right.
one of those covered perils. Obviously, we live in a very litigious state, so there's a number of other coverages, tenant discrimination, and things like that increase that, or if someone does get injured. But in this particular case, with renters around those specific covered perils, if there is a loss to them, the chances of you getting sued is, if they have renters insurance, substantially decreases.
Great. Okay, on Facebook, we have Kristen. Tenant's liability doesn't cover building damage caused by tenants or their guests? Great question.
So that's a question, or is she's?
That's a question. I guess the best way to say it was, does it cover?
So the liability is going to cover a third party, but no. So if for whatever reason if there is a damage to property, that's to a third party property or the apartment owner, yeah, it would cover up to the policy limits of your renter's insurance policy. So if, for instance, they had $100,000 of coverage, and there was some fire damage or smoke damage inside the building, that policy would be triggered first.
Okay. What if a tenant breaks a glass stove? So it's maybe the same question here. And answer would be no.
Well, again, if they broke a glass stove, depending on where the deductibles are, and their own policy, but yes, glass stoves generally are going to fall under those deductibles that are on that policy.
Okay, on YouTube, Joe, landlord as additional insured.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we recommend to make sure that every tenant names you as an additional insured. In some cases, some of the carriers will name it as additional interest, but that's really important to make sure that you're notified of any changes on the policy, and that you essentially are first, if you will, if there is a claim or can collect. But in the state of California, there's a lot of different nuances to that. But yes, it is best practice as a landowner, as a landlord, to make sure that on those policies you are being named as additional insured. But some carriers won't do that. They won't actually. They change the name to additional interest versus additional insured, and their reason for that is that you don't have any insurable interest in that particular in their renter's insurance policy.
And how about the insurance that you're offering for tenants? How does that one break down?
Yeah, so we offer a number of plethora of different solutions, and so we would recommend one that you could that you would be properly covered for in this way. So it depends. So if we wanted to set up a master program, all that would be embedded in there. If we wanted to set up a sort of a legal liability policy that I mentioned earlier, there's some different nuances to that, and how that coverage would be triggered. But yes, we would make sure that they were properly covered.
Great. Okay, Darius on Facebook. What do you know about insurance in lieu of a security deposit?
Great question. Yeah, there's a number of different policies out there for coverage for a security deposit. I was actually just recently looking at a platform that does offer that, and I'm not sure what specifically the question is around that, but there are coverages for um, there are policies out there that you could purchase to cover your security deposit, and it's pretty inexpensive. It's a really interesting. I think you and I, Jeff, talked about it about a month or so ago about offering something like that. But there are products around that, and it's pretty seamless. I think there's actually a really interesting one that's it's all seamlessly done online. But yeah, if you have any other additional questions on that, we can absolutely talk in person if you're interested.
Great. On Facebook, Shirley, what do you do if the tenant cancels the policy?
Yeah, you should. Yeah, that's a great question. But I think there's a number of legal things that you want to do. Obviously, ideally, if you have something embedded into your rental agreement, I think that's the point in time where you do have a conversation and you remind them of that agreement. And maybe it's something that they just something happened financially and they didn't pay their premiums, or for whatever reason there was a bank account changed. If they knowingly just didn't pay it, and they violated the rental agreement, I think you have recourse at that point. If you don't have it in your rental agreement, they and didn't have the rental insurance policy, ultimately at the end of the day, you're covered, right? If you have the right proper policy in place, and I caveat that, don't hold me to this, but if you have a robust policy that's comprehensive, and you have a good broker that's advising you on the actual on your rental property, you should, worst case scenario, have proper coverage. Rental insurance is there to mitigate and limit and reduce your risks, right? It doesn't prohibit you from, like, if you're relying on renters insurance to cover you for everything and you don't have proper coverage for your property and the liability of your property, that's not how you want to use renters insurance. You really want to look at, they're two sort of separate ways from a risk standpoint to have set up, and both are important. I would say the most important is that you have the best coverage for your properties, and that's first and foremost. Renters insurance is really to set your tenant up for success. So that's how I would really think about renters insurance. Is it's a selfless way to make sure that they're properly covered, because I've seen it time and time again when there's a fire and it's not their fault. It could be a tenant that's 5 units down, but they've lost all of their things and they don't have renters insurance for one reason or another that they could have easily, most of the time they could afford. And those are bad days, right? Because they've lost everything that they've worked so hard to have. And so I think it's pertinent, and I think it's wise to be able to, just at the very least, even if you don't require your tenants or don't embed it or don't require them in the agreement, to advise them, to encourage them, and to provide them the information about renters insurance so that they're properly set up. It's a little thing that we can do, and I think in the end it will save not only you but them financially in the long run.
Great. All these are really good questions. Elena, do you cover E&O insurance for property managers?
100%. Yes. Now we're talking. Yeah, definitely. And professional liability for property managers, for apartment owners, is very complex. And there's a lot of things in those policies that are and are not covered. One of them being tenant discrimination, libel, slander, sexual harassment. A lot of times, these things are overlooked in policies for property managers. Also, off-premises liability coverage is a huge component to that we see time and time again. It's not covered on there. So absolutely, it's something we do regularly. It's something that I personally love working on, because the policies are a little bit more complex and a little more sophisticated, and they differ pretty from one policy to another. So there's some really interesting things. We just actually brought over a member just this last week. He had a broker for 20 years, looked at his policy and found a number of different things on there that were just extremely alarming. And we were able to make some pretty substantial corrections at very, very little increase in cost. So property management, if you're interested, 110%, give us a call. I think you'll be happy you did.
Right. And you guys are winning awards for a reason. It's not like you're paying somebody to give you an award on some cheesy
No.
advertising website, correct?
No, we didn't pay a dime. We didn't pay a dime for any of the awards that we get. But the awards are great. I think that the best thing is the testimonials, right? I mean, I think you guys have done your due diligence and have vetted us. And we gladly like to share what our clients are experiencing. And this is a space where reputation is a huge thing. And so we really try to pride ourselves on reputation and the proof, we really, really believe in integrity. And so, and we'll continue to strive to do that. So, yep.
Great. We have there's been a lot of new members and other members that have mixed portfolios. They have single family homes. Some, that's all they own is single family homes.
Yep.
Do you have any special policies or packages for insurance for single family homes that are being used as rentals? That's the question.
Yeah, 100%. My family has a number of single family homes. And so, yeah, it's a similar philosophy, similar type of structure to however it would be with apartments. The policies differ slightly, but essentially the same. And the way that they're, depending on how many single family homes you have we can absolutely do that. We can, whether it's doing an individual renter's insurance solution or sort of a master renter's insurance solution, we can absolutely help with either one of those for sure. I think the fundamental question really is do you want to require your tenant to purchase renter's insurance or not? Obviously, encouraging it is definitely at the very least what we recommend. And I highlighted some of the benefits of doing that. But I think that's a fundamental question because a lot of folks, they don't want to, a lot of our apartment owners don't want to actually purchase that master program and then offset the cost within their renters, their monthly rent. So.
All right, here's Janice on YouTube. Apologies if you've already covered this. What liability property dollar limit do you recommend for renter's insurance?
Great question. Phenomenal.
Yeah,
I was waiting for it.
Really
and I didn't cover that, but it's a great question. Yeah, I think on the property side, it's pretty simple. It's whatever their covered assets, whatever they want to actually comfortable to cover. And, they vary 10, 20, 50, or 100,000 generally is around those, unless you have a renter that has, quite a bit higher limits, we can find a solution, but those are sort of around 20,000 seems to be, I would say the most common around that 20,000 to 50,000 and for the property coverage. And then we recommend 100,000 on the liability. I think that's sort of the standard, amount. Obviously we can look to increase that, but the 100,000, it allows you as the landowner to have, a little bit of peace of mind. But I think that's great question. And I apologize for not covering that earlier, but yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Renter's insurance is pretty straightforward when it comes to those types of limits.
Great. Jason on YouTube. Can a tenant make a claim under their insurance policy for failure to maintain a rental premise?
Failure to maintain a rental, failure to maintain?
Yes.
I guess I have a question on failure to maintain. What's so that the landlord failed to maintain it?
Right.
Yeah. So the big question is what is the loss, right? So whenever you're filing a claim, you want to look at where's the claim. There has to be some sort of loss, some sort of financial loss, or bodily injury, or property damage, right? So where is that trigger? If there is sort of a habitability issue, and the sink isn't working, the water isn't working, the stairway isn't level, there's some conditional things around pests. That is a conversation you should have with your landlord for sure. And hopefully the landlord will respond, but that would be my recommendation, is to speak to your landlord about correcting or maintaining that versus submitting something to your renter's insurance. And again, you can always talk to your agent about some of these types of things, that coverage claims. You'd be surprised what some of these carriers may or may not cover. But at the time of a claim, ultimately it's going to be up to them to determine whether or not that is covered. But it sounds like in your question, it sounds more like a conversation you need to have with the landlord.
All right, Mina, do you have a form letter to tenants encouraging them to purchase renter's insurance?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can provide you something customized. We can provide you something specific. We can provide you something very generic in nature. Why don't you give us a call, and one of my team members, we can work with you to formulate something. In the past, we did seminars live in person at some of the trade shows, and we did actually have someone who would literally take a look at your actual rental contracts and help you reformulate those, including the rental insurance verbiage. We actually did have a partner carrier, and we spoke on that. That we haven't done in years, candidly. And so, but what you're asking for, absolutely, we can definitely come up with something to help you.
Right. And just clarification, Jason, with that one question that Jason asked, it's if the tenant fails to maintain their premise. And let me look back at the question.
Okay, so they fail. So the failure of maintaining the premises led to what? A fire? Led to?
Right, may have led to some insurance claim.
Then yeah, I would submit it. It doesn't sound like it's a clean cut claim that will be covered, but it's not going to hurt to submit it. It sounds like, if there was a violation of the rental agreement, and they're stating that, this goes back to, I think someone else asked the question is, hey, is there insurance on a security deposit? And this would be one of those things, is that security, you have insurance on the security deposit for something like this. I'm assuming they're taking that part of that security deposit and penalizing you for, let's say, an iron that you used on the carpet, and now they have to replace the carpet for a couple $1,000. So yes, I would at the very least submit this to your renter's insurance and have a dialogue with your broker. If you don't have a broker, speak to the carrier directly, and they will respond. They will respond timely and give you a very thoughtful reason as to why or why not they're covering it.
Great. All right, Shoab, does renter's insurance cover broken windows or door during a burglary, or property physical damage only covered at the landlord's policy?
Great question.
Yeah.
As we get very specific, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on the policy. It's going to depend on the coverage. And so, but generally speaking, that it should cover the broken window. I would say there's a number of policies, and given the circumstance, if there was a break-in, these types of things would generally be covered. But again, a lot of these circumstances are unique, and so it really depends on the way the policy was structured and who the carrier is and how they're going to cover the claim. Because I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and I still get surprised by some of the way that some of these carriers respond to certain claims, so the policy forms are very different, and every carrier is different. So it's really important to make sure you have someone you trust and someone who knows what they're doing.
Great. All right, Helen Young on YouTube. If my tenant in commercial property will not buy renter's insurance, but is required in the rental agreement, can I buy it and bill the renter?
Yeah, you just have to disclose that, and you come up with a new agreement and say, hey, our rent has gone up, and there are policies in place that you can do that. It sounds like maybe another conversation with the tenant and saying, hey, we're gonna changing the billing on, if it's an individual, you can set something up where the billing in itself is where it comes to you directly and you pay for it automatically. That may be the easiest solution if you don't have a number of units. But if you have a number of units and you have this sort of a program, it's easier to set up a policy for all of your units than it is to do one individual one, just because some of the ways these policies are structured is they're looking at the bulk, they're looking at the entire risk rather than one individual property. But yes, we can help you.
Great. And you know how to work with, if it's LA City where there's a freeze on rent increases and these other things.
Yeah, know how to work. I mean, we have as thousands of apartment owners in the area, and so yeah, I mean, every case is different. Sometimes it's not one size fits all, but it's sort of working and with exhausting all resources to make sure that we come up with the best solution for their unique need. That's the best way I can say it, and it's. It sounds like in her case, it's not really a boilerplate. So if I was talking to a thousand unit apartment owner, it would be very different, right? Than someone who has 10 units, but it's one unit that's given her a problem, and one single family home. And so that's one of the benefits of having us as a partner. And this is what the AOA has set up, is to make sure that we can provide these types of services. So we can absolutely help.
Great. All right. Here's Kristen. Do you charge a fee to take a look at our insurance to see what ours might be lacking in? That's a great question.
We will gladly take any fee you want to give us. I'm just kidding. It depends. Generally, no. I would say we sort of have different divisions. On sort of our larger, more complex risks. Sometimes our insureds prefer us be paid on a fee, and then we net out our commission, right? So the commission sometimes can be much, much higher. So when you say a fee, but I would say generally not on the smaller ones, unless there's some unique situations where a fee is granted or warranted for some additional services that we're doing. But if it's 10, 15 unit apartment complex and we have a specific program for them, there's really no need to charge a fee. The biggest thing is however we're being compensated. Transparency is a really important conviction of ours, and so no matter what we do, we'll be transparent about whatever we're doing. So, but generally, I would say for your 9 out of 10 apartment owners, we do not charge a fee
to review the insurance that they currently have.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not. Just to review, 100% not. No.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
that's what I think she was asking.
But again, if you're itching to pay a fee for it, we'll make sure it's worth your time. But no, we'll review it free of charge.
All right. On YouTube, Karen, we have made it mandatory, but finding people are just not providing me with proof. Any suggestions?
Yeah, that's tough. I would have a question as to how many units they have, because if there's enough units there, we could set up a policy to make sure that she has full transparency, and maybe it's not, and we can work something out, or we can find a solution for her where, there is something like that where they need to go to this site. It provides you with whether or not their policy is active or not, and then they get reminded, you and them get reminded of the fact that they're violating the contractual agreement. If it just takes one claim, so unfortunately sometimes they need to be reminded. But yeah, we can absolutely help with coming up with a solution that could ensure that that policy is in place. I mean, the great thing is if you have great coverage, that you're ultimately covered, so you can sleep well at night. But yeah, coming up with a solution for your renters is one that I think we can help with.
All right, Island Breeze. Does renter's insurance protect the owner's structure, say if the tenant caused a fire or let the house flood?
No. Renter's insurance will not cover the structure. More than likely. I mean, it's not designed to cover the structure. So, if there was, I guess, on the liability coverage, that would be, that would be the $100,000 of coverage or whatever the policy limits were, but or whatever the liability limits were, but they're not designed for that. That's why you have your own policies in place.
All right, Ramesh, when does a renter's insurance premium increase? It's a good question.
When does it increase? Annually. So, or whenever your anniversary date is. I don't think there's very many 6-month policies out there, if there are any, but the insurance typically is on a annual basis, and at that anniversary date, those those rates increase. And so depending on credit score, depending on claims history, depending on all these loss criteria, and by the way, you can get renter's insurance reductions if you have alarms, if you have fire extinguishers, if you have these sort of things, there's additional credits that can be done. But generally, renter's insurance doesn't increase very much if you don't have claims. I mean, it's pretty, it's pretty static, and if it doesn't increase, it's pretty nominal.
Okay, here's Super Zero. I believe the original question about security deposit was, can renter's insurance be in lieu of security deposit?
Can renter's insurance be in lieu of a security deposit? I mean, that's ultimately up to you. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that as a landlord, but that's my opinion. Because there's other things that potentially could happen that may not necessarily be covered by renter's insurance that you as the landlord just don't, in my opinion, want to deal with. But yes, for the policy that is available, which is purchasing a policy in lieu of a deposit, there are policies out there for that. Yes, 100%.
All right, Kristen. Okay, we require renter's insurance, but if a tenant defaults in payment, is there anything legally we can do to force the issue?
Again, legally, I would consult your attorney. But I believe there are. If there is a violation of a contractual agreement that they agreed to on your rental agreement, and they are violating that, there absolutely is recourse. How much recourse and how far legally you want to take it is going to be up to you and the advice of your attorney. But we absolutely have had landlords who've taken action. And in every case is different, but there is. I would say yes to that, but I would advise you to consult your attorney.
All right. Karen on YouTube, how does your firm's options for insurance compare with farmers insurance? We're finding farmers is a lot more expensive these days.
Yeah, so it just depends. We have access to farmers as well. So we're think of us as sort of your apartment expert, right? So if you need us to get an option for you, I wouldn't think of us as sort of a competitor necessarily. Um, I think the answer to that is yes. There's a difference between captive agents like the farmers, the state farms, the all states of the world. Um, and generally, the cost for renters insurance specifically is going to be pretty close. We're going to have $1 off here, $1 off there monthly. So Safeco, Mercury, I mean, a number of these carriers are all going to be around the same. But yes, we've seen farmers as of late in State Farm take rate hikes quite a bit, but every policy is different. And so, I think the solution that we offer, we can do things that and offer coverages that farmers of the world candidly just cannot. So I think having a comprehensive solution that you're looking at all of your exposures and you're looking at all of your options. If you're thinking of that, that's where we come in.
Great. Shoab, is there any financial incentive for the landlord to push the tenant to purchase the insurance through your brokerage?
Incentive to the landlord?
Right.
Great question. There used to be. Well, ultimately, we're here to provide you with the best services and the best solutions that we know about. So whether it's our agency for renters insurance or we just we recommend it. Obviously, we'd love to work with you. And just making sure that you're properly set up if and that's what we're here for. So we did have a plan in place historically where if the property manager or apartment owner was large enough, there would be some sort of I don't know what the carrier called it, but some sort of dividend or some sort of amount where every renter's insurance policy that you were purchasing through them, you received a certain percentage of that. That program is no longer in existence, but I don't know if you're looking for an incentive specifically for something like that, or if you're looking for an expert. If you're looking for someone who is an expert in the space, we this is what we specialize in. So we'd love to have that dialogue with you.
Great. Okay. And then Karen, the second part of her question was she was confused on the master policy idea. So could you run through that a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a few different flavors of that. So if you want, why don't you just give us a call and we can talk to you specifically about your specific risks. But there's a few different types of master policies. We have access to one program where it's 100 units and above, and essentially you have all transparency. There's a program that we essentially deliver you, a software program or a site, if you will, and you can access. You can see if someone is on there. You add renters. You can add, remove based on the tenant, and each tenant is charged a certain amount for each door. And then there's other programs out there where the one that the legal liability coverage, essentially there's like 100,000 of coverage. It's similar. It's not a true renter's insurance policy, but it's essentially for all of your units up to $100,000 of coverage. Again, really high level, but that's also another option. And then there's a few other things, but generally speaking, if you're interested in setting up a program for all of your units, it would be helpful to know how many units you have. What are you looking for? Are you going to require it, or do you want to manage it? Do you want to offset the renters? You want to offset that cost with embedded into your actual monthly rent. So these factors, I think, will change my answer. But give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. I think it would be helpful.
All right, Island Breeze. Would there ever be a time when a landlord would be added as an additional insured as opposed to additional interest?
Yes. if the carrier is willing to do it, I absolutely would be added as additional insured. If you can, certain carriers will allow that. Some are, some respond differently. I believe Safeco will, if I'm not mistaken, will it's actually additional interest. I don't believe they offer additional insured, but others will allow it, and maybe it's a. I think how they respond to a claim is very similar, but it's the way that they see how the policy is set up.
Great. And Shoab, is there a high liability limit that a landlord can require for a tenant's renter's insurance policy? I've heard that it's 500,000.
Yeah, I mean, again, you can require, again, these are things I would definitely speak with your attorney about in terms of requirements and the legal verbiage on within your rental agreement. But yes, in terms of coverage and making sure that that coverage is available on the policy, we can provide that for you, whether or not it's 100,000 or 500,000. That's ultimately up to you as the landlord. So, but there is no sort of minimum legal statute around this to require, as far as I know. Now there may be some new. There may be something where if there's a minimum around that, but it isn't a requirement. So I think the minimum that if you are requiring it is 100,000. I don't think it is 500,000, but don't hold me to that. I do think it's 100,000. So if you are requiring it, I think the minimum amount is 100K. Yeah.
Right. Well, Anthony, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here. Great questions. Yeah, so we're open, and we'd love to hear from you directly. So
yeah, so hopefully we can get your contact information flashed up there for everybody to see one more time. And everyone, thank you so much for joining and asking really good questions. AOA members are just the best. Obviously, I'm biased, but I really believe that everyone's a learner, everyone's going for it, and so it's just awesome to see people establish a legacy to leave to their family, and it's just been fun to be with everyone through the process of just this process that we're all in. And so next week, we have one about DSTs, and then again in January we'll have a legislative update with Michael Brennan. We'll have another live stream about, not another, but it'll be a first of its kind, but a live stream about how to deal with gangs that may be around your building, how to work with the police and the community, and just making that a safer place, as well as how to deal with people that are dealing drugs out of your building. And so that'll be an interesting one coming in January, and we'll just continue to build the schedule out for next year. And if you have any suggestions, you're always welcome to send them in. And Darius, I know that you have a legal question there. If you could ask, just call in and talk to our staff about that, and we'll see what they have for you with that one. And wow, sometimes things are just crazy. Like today, we literally have half of our advisory team out. We normally have about 10. We have 5 people out today. So if things are a little busy today, please forgive us. And that's just not a normal thing. So here we are. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. And Anthony, thanks again. Maybe Notre Dame will sneak in here. Who knows? You got a lot of footballs and basketballs back there, so you're probably following them closely.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that Michigan-Ohio State game.
Right.
Did you see that one?
I didn't see it, but I know that it was, first time Michigan win. Anyway, thanks, guys, and we will see you next time.
Appreciate it.